You know, usually when I'm doing this piece, because it is such a thread hog, I do like to use two huge wingspans of thread. You know, when I'm pulling my needle through, I'm all like this. I figure it's like exercise, right? Maybe I'm working out my
Mhm.
arm. That's what I tell myself anyway, so I feel better about sitting doing this. Um, when you get to a point where you want to add thread and you want to plan a little bit ahead, you don't want to end up with such a short piece of thread on your needle that you're not going to be able to needle back onto it later. We want to be able to needle back onto it later so that we can go through the work in an opposite direction to kind of interlock those the end of your old thread and the ends of your new threads together. Okay, so in this particular piece, when I get to that middle midpoint stitch that I was showing you, where there's 3/15s at the top of the stitch, that's kind of my favorite point to end a thread, because there's not a lot of tension on that particular stitch. It's a stitch that's right in the middle of the V. It's not holding anything really firm like some of them along here. You'll find you have to pull your thread a little bit tighter to get the shaped curve. So I try to plan ahead to being that's where I'm going to end my thread. And when I get to that stitch and I'm coming out of the top of my work, so I just did it here. I did the 3/15s on the last stitch, and then I came back up, okay? And then I'm just gonna pull my needle off. I'm just gonna let that old thread stay right there. Now I want to add my new thread, so I'm going to get my new thread ready. I've got my nice long piece of thread. I am ready to go. And I'm just going to come through the last two beads. So I'm going to go the beads that I just added when I went up this direction. So I'm going to go zigzag on those last two beads along the edge all the way up to the top. And I'm going to let the new thread's tail stick out the bottom of my work and give it a nice piece that is going to be easy enough to add your needle to and do some stitches. So maybe about, what is that, like 6 inches or so? Just going to let that hang out the bottom. And I'm going to go two beads up all through that edge where I'm working. So my thread will come out the same place that my last thread ended, at the top of the work. Okay, so now I am coming out of the same bead that I ended my old thread on. They're both coming out of the same one. I've got the tail of my old thread coming out through the top. That's the neckline edge that goes in towards the inner edge of your neck. And the new thread tail is coming out the bottom. That's the part that kind of goes near your clothing. Okay. I'm just going to let those two sit. I'm going to hold them to the side and get them out of my way. And I'm going to continue stitching with my beads in this direction. The first line of beads I add, I don't want to pull too tight because I'll end up pulling this thread. If you feel like you're getting your tail sucked into it, then just pull it back for that first line of beads. Okay. Now I'm going to keep beading. I'm just going to add as far as this thread will go. And when I'm done, I'm going to see, oh, here's where my last thread ended. This was my old thread, because I always do it the same way. That's the easiest way to remember. My old thread is coming out through the top. That means my old thread stitched all of this. And now when I want to end that old thread, I'm going to go through the new section just to secure it and randomly go through in this direction. My new thread is coming out the bottom. It's stitched this way. I want to interlock it, so I'm going to stitch this way to tie up my old thread. And really, I only have to do maybe 5 or 6 stitches. I don't have to go really far. I don't have to take it through all of this stuff. This, peyote is a very tight stitch where it locks together anyway. So just get it in there a few times. If you can wiggle between the beads and get a half hitch knot in there, or if you can turn it over to the back and get a half hitch knot between the eights, that's kind of the easiest place to grab that thread and tie a knot in there. And just have your threads going in those opposite directions so that they lock with the previous and the new work. You'll have a nice secure area throughout your work.